Dear members of the jury, envision a world of absolute transparency and trust, not only in pharmacy but in supply chains, where every single pill, each life-saving medication carries with it a clear, tamper-proof story. From its very inception in the laboratory, the raw materials used, the hands it passed through, to its ultimate journey into the heads of a patient in need. Every single step logged, verified, and easily traceable. Today, we are here to illuminate the path to this reality, introducing the transformative power of the blockchain technology into the heart of the pharmaceutical supply chains and being the human-centered. Together, let's strive towards a future where absolute integrity isn't merely an aspiration, but a tangible, attainable reality. We see Zullig Pharma as a unique healthcare and pharma leader in the APAC region with exclusive distributor rights for all the top 20 manufacturers in the world. Also, Zullig Pharma is the innovative company that has pioneered blockchain supply chain in the pharmacy industry. But more importantly, we see the future of Zullig Pharma as the innovation leader, not only in the apex, but globally, where Zullig Pharma sets the industry standards of innovation. We also see Zullig Pharma undertaking the blockchain supply chain across the entirety of the supply chain in the organization, making the blockchain core of the business and supply chain. But the gap persists. How can Zullig Pharma achieve this exact position? Andrea, will you guide us through the research insights?
Of course, Luca. Before we started to explore future opportunities for Zullig Pharma, we wanted to tap into current situation and analyze current portfolio. Zullig Pharma is the largest distributor from Singapore for products of global pharmaceutical manufacturers that did not have a footprint in the Asian market. Thanks to Zullig Pharma, 13 markets in Asia have been covered with only the best healthcare products and meds. From those 13 markets, 90% of customers are taken care of by them. Those are pretty amazing numbers that have been reached owing to 15,000 employees of Zullig. When it comes to customers, numbers are even greater, with more than 200,000 medical entities in its network. We have concluded that this Singaporean company does really an amazing job, and it managed to achieve that by differentiating in 4 ways. First, the company owns the last mile rather than, as its competition does, outsourcing it. Second, unlike others, Zullig Pharma focused on healthcare only. That focus was the reason why it became a large-scale player in most of its operating markets. Third, in addition to the core distribution services, Zullig Pharma provided 4 types of medical services in specific Asian markets. And fourth, the most important one, partnership that they had built gave Zullig Pharma the strongest competitive advantage. Although Zullig Pharma has a strong presence and differentiated position on the market, they still need to keep their business operating on the highest level possible by satisfying stakeholders' needs. In order to see what is the best next step for Zullig Pharma, let's take a closer look at the pharmaceutical industry as a whole. Talking on a global scale, pharma industry had been doing pretty well, as market grew by 4.2% in 2020 and the sales revenue was $112.6 billion. A major initiative in the global pharma industry was the formation of a consortium in Europe called Pharma Ledger, wanting to improve innovation in the pharmacy industry. And talking about generated revenue by region, the leader is still US with 34.8% market share, while Asia is right behind with 32.2%. It is very important to mention the current trends that are shaping the industry, and some of those are: one-on-one care began to shift to technology-based care. Payment system became customer-centric. Patients demanded access to their medical records and exercised consumer rights. Drugs evolved to contain high-value active ingredients with short shelf lives and strict temperature requirements. It became crucial to monitor the storage and transport of drugs from the time of manufacture to the time of use. And that resulted in an estimated 20 to 40% of total healthcare resources to be wasted annually, as the World Health Organization estimated. We mark that as one of the crucial problems due to its impact on the environment and, of course, increased costs. On the other hand, Southeast Asia region is dealing with problems with counterfeit medicine and drugs. Regular pharma companies lost an estimated $2.6 billion in annual revenues due to counterfeit medicines in Southeast Asia. One thing to know about Southeast Asian pharmacy market is that their culture of doing business was very different than in the rest of the world, meaning the Southeast Asians are more collaborative if they know that there is something in it for them. So there always needs to be what's in it for me proposition. Having only tackled some of the problems pharmaceutical industry in Asia is facing, we should take a closer look to all of the challenges of pharmaceutical. Possibly, the most important group of problems are supply chains inefficiency. First, there is a lack of information sharing between parties. Second, even if information is exchanged, it is not tagged to product, thereby limiting the effectiveness of sharing. Third, the patient, as the end user of the product, has no access to data in the supply chain around product movement and provenance. Next in line, as I previously mentioned, are counterfeit problems. Our counterfeiters have the same access to specialized equipment and technology as regular players, which resulted in numerous dangerous threats to public safety. Last but not least are product recalls. That results in disrupting supply chains, testing customers' relationship, affected sales, and company's reputation being disrupted. So, how can Zullig Pharma overcome these challenges one step at a time? Potential challenges could be addressed through the further use of blockchain technology. Therefore, let's deep dive into blockchain analysis. Blockchain technology is projected to be boosting GDP by $1.76 trillion by 2030, which is a huge opportunity for companies to start implementing it in everyday usage. There are 6 characteristics of blockchain technology that made it such a big deal. We would highlight distributed database, anonymity, and transparency. There, we can see a map of all the stakeholders of a blockchain, and there are 8 of them. Having all that in mind, we can mention the famous Easy Tracker that Zullig Pharma created in order to help identify various counterfeiting and sales rechanneling activities while supporting the manufacturers and local authorities in their investigations. To ensure traceability, all products were serialized with a unique sticker that contained a unique serial number. Then, the products were scanned and added to the blockchain to record and start the track and trace process. Following this amazing innovation, Nadia, can you explain us how can Zullig Pharma further utilize the blockchain technology?
Sure thing, Andrea. After our detailed analysis of Zullig Pharma's complex business and blockchain challenges that company is facing, one crucial dilemma occurred. What is the next step for a successful company such as Zullig Pharma? A company that has done it all, from distributing pharmacy products to using the most modern technology of today, blockchain. Therefore, we determined 3 potential strategical approaches. Ranking criteria are implementation feasibility, laws and regulation, potential impact of our stakeholders, and scalability. If we deep dive into these strategic alternatives, we came to the conclusion that the second alternative, expanding blockchain applications, although it will potentially impact the stakeholders that are having many huge risks. Firstly, there is a huge obstacle in the implementation feasibility, but also it brings a lot of legal and regulations uncertainties. Same could be said for our third alternative, reaching new geographical markets, where the main challenge poses, of course, what to make sure that Zullig Pharma meets all of the regulations. So, with everything explained, our primary strategic focus would be to increase technology adoption. So, just before deep dive into our proposed strategy, we wanted to take a closer look at the simplified supply chain model of Zullig Pharma. As you can see on the one side of the slide, there are manufacturers that provide Zullig Pharma products needed to set market while utilizing blockchain for the supply chain. On the other side of the slide, we can see the main 2 crucial groups when it comes to distributing products, and they're hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies, retailers that are in need of pharmacy products to maintain their business growing. In the middle of our slide, of our supply chain, we can see the crucial player, and that is us, Zullig Pharma, that connects these 3 stakeholders as a medium. And after looking at this model, we couldn't help but wonder, what are the things that this model should improve and what this supply chain should highlight? After we have take a closer look at the existing simplified supply chain to better understand how can Zullig Pharma upgrade its current business model. Firstly, we can take a closer look at the manufacturing side, where there is a large-scale adoption of blockchain technology in supply chain, while maintaining crucial information in the pharma supply chain protected. This part of supply chain of Zullig Pharma is well implemented, but it faces some negative sides of storage costs due to the lack of information for demand of the part of the other end of the supply chain, hospitals and retailers. Secondly, if you take a closer look at the hospitals and retailers, we see the strong connection that Zullig Pharma already has with them. That is a growth over the years. But on the other hand, they face problems with delivery delays and visibility of the current supply chain. To wrap up, although Zullig Pharma's blockchain supply chain has tremendous success in the procurement and manufacturing side, it is yet to be determined how can it be transcended to the last mile side and tackle all the big challenges that this existing supply chain model has. Dear members of our jury, it is our pleasure to introduce you to our proposed strategy, Pharma Chain Harmony, which will increase technology adoption and make sure supply chain more seamless. Through this strategy, we want to implement and empower not only hospitals and clinics, but also retailers and pharmacies to utilize Zullig Pharma blockchain supply chain infrastructure. Now, Nicola, will you guide us through the implementation steps of our strategy?
Of course, Nadia. As implementation is the key to every good idea, we divide it into 4 key simplified steps. First, we want our key stakeholders, in this case, hospitals and pharmacies that have already collaborated with us to implement our new upgraded blockchain infrastructure provided by Zullig Pharma. We want to connect 40 hospitals and clinics and 90 retailers with the Zullig Pharma blockchain supply chain, which will ensure that everyday business will not be disrupted. The location that will first see our technology are public hospitals in Hong Kong in Kowloon Central District, and will be implemented by a third party, the Hyperledger Fabric. Data is the key to the success of this implementation, and we want to utilize it. Blockchain got us covered and will provide an anonymous collection of storage and data. The type of data that will be collected is about patients' patterns, as this data will be provided across Zullig Pharma's blockchain supply chain in order to increase overall efficiency. The third step gathers the user's patterns and preferences across different criteria and provide key insights to manufacturers that will enable them to see the real demand for the medicine and organize the delivery process overall. By doing this, Zullig Pharma would improve the last mile supply chain, optimize delivery, and have less waste of medication and drugs and better patient outcome for hospitals and retailers. And the last step in Pharma Chain Harmony implementation is the distribution of medicine that have been already supplied by manufacturers. But the question just arises, what are we planning to achieve with this step? We have benchmarked the just-in-time concept of large companies such as Huawei, Tencent, and Lenovo, a concept that makes all stakeholders satisfied by getting their product just in time, which will ensure maximum efficiency and would also decrease waste by receiving goods only as they are needed, thereby reducing inventory costs. In Asia, what is in it for me is the key concept of doing partnership businesses. So let's take a closer look at that. Hospitals will lower their administration costs by 80%, which will help them focus on reducing waiting times for medications. In addition, to add on that, we saw the gap that hospitals sometimes do seasonalities will cause overstocking that we want to reduce and even prevent. We will do that by gathering historical data that will give us a closer number of illnesses every year due to different criteria and reduce overstocking. On the other side of the spectrum, retail and pharmacies will benefit from efficiency inventory management and improved supply chain, collaborating, which will cause them to increase their margins by around 3%. And coming back to us, we will raise efficiency and gain unique competitive advantage. As the world is moving towards more sustainable goals, and Zullig Pharma is a company operating in highly important industry, we see tackling United Nations SDGs inevitable part. We have led you through the implementation of the blockchain supply chain to the other side of the supply chain, the side that is in contact with the end user, the side that will have the most benefits from the blockchain supply chain. And in 4 key steps, we have explained how is that going to roll out. Now, let's take a closer look at the roadmap. We would launch the Pharma Chain Harmony by the end of 2025 while expanding and engaging more stakeholders through 2025 and 2026. And key metrics that we would follow would be revenue increase margin by approximately 7% and $21.7 billion in added revenue. And at the end, for the risk assessment, we have recognized 3 key risks that might occur during the development and implementation of Pharma Chain Harmony strategy. We have also established mitigation steps for every risk, where the key represents regulatory and legal risks that might occur along the way. The mitigation will be to engage legal experts to ensure that blockchain complies with the laws and regulations. And now, Luca, can you walk us through the impact structure of the Pharma Chain Harmony strategy?
Certainly, Nicola, thank you. As for the financial implications, we have assumed that according to Accenture, blockchain supply chain will have compound annual growth rate of 57.4% yearly. Also, we have assumed that the average pharmacy distributor margin is around 8 to 12%. If we take a closer look at the revenue breakdown, we can clearly see that the profit margins that could be increased by implementing blockchain in the last mile of the supply chain would produce additional revenue in the years to come. KPIs that we would like to measure are decreased administrative and general costs of hospitals by 80% and increased profit margin of Zullig Pharma by 7%. Also, we would like to add on to 1.7 billion to added revenue by the 2027. Once again, we have defined the key challenge that Zullig Pharma faces, with the question being, what is the next step for Zullig Pharma in order to drive blockchain adoption in pharmacy while being in the middle of it? Therefore, we have introduced the Pharma Chain Harmony strategy that focuses on implementing blockchain supply chain in the last mile part of the supply chain, where we want to reorganize the delivery process for retailers and hospitals, allowing them to utilize every part of the digitalized way. In conclusion, dear members of the jury, as we've explored today, blockchain has the potential to completely revolutionize pharmaceutical supply chains. But you already know all of that. What is really important is that it's about trust. It's about taking significant strides to ensure every pill, every medication is exactly what it should be from inception to delivery. But this future isn't a reality just yet. It requires vision, which Zullig Pharma already has, collaboration and investment from each one of us here today. We stand on the precipice of a significant breakthrough, and Zullig Pharma can and will make it happen. Let's seize the opportunity to look at every step across the supply chain, from manufacturing to the customers that really rely on the medications that Zullig Pharma provides for them, and ensure safe and transparent future for every single one of us involved. Thank you for your attention, and we are open to every question that you might have.
Thank you very much, team. Let's put a timer on 15 minutes. Okay, judges, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Thanks everyone for the presentation. May I understand how did you pick Hong Kong as the pilot location to begin with? Because I haven't seen enough in terms of the market analysis.
Yes, I can take on that. So basically, From the case study that we have been provided with, we have seen that the Zullig Pharma has the best presence in the Hong Kong market, and that the Zullig Pharma is undertaking its several pilot projects per se in the Hong Kong region, and that they have the strongest growth and the ability in the Hong Kong region. That's why we chose to put the pilot project there.
I see. So have you done some analysis about other markets that are available, like within Asia Pac? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if we take a look at the row number 3 from the years 2024 to 2027 for the expansion plan and the pilot project, we see that we want to focus on Hong Kong only in 2024, and for the expansion plans of the strategy, we want to go to Malaysia and Philippines, which both represent key markets for the Zullig Pharma, as we were able to find from the market research and the analysis. So basically, if something passes on the three key markets that Zullig Pharma has, it would be good for the entire Asia.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What is the number one problem you are trying to resolve here?
I can take this question. So basically, the number one problem that we want to tackle is the reduction of the waste by the whole supply chain. We want to tackle the ESGs and the environmental part of the ESG moment. So we think that by reducing the waste, we will also save a lot of money for all the parts, all the stakeholders.
If I may add on.
Please go ahead.
As I said in my research, especially Zullig Pharma highlighted that on their annual report that 20 to 40% of pharmaceutical equipment and medicine and everything was being wasted due to inefficiency in its storage, because all of the meds were staying there for a long time, and that costs a lot, and it's not good for the environment. So we wanted to tackle that.
So the number one problem you try to resolve is reduction in waste. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then what exactly solution try to resolve reduction in waste in one line of sentence?
We want to see by the historical data what is the demand and what will be the supply for the future by the historical data, and in that way not have more than is needed.
Sure. And if I am the hospital or I am your partner, why I would want a third party to, I want to offer you to come into my system and offer a solution instead of going to a third party for a platform solution.
Yeah, Nadia, can you take on that? I think that you have the perfect example.
Yes, of course, Luca. For your question, my answer is, with this model, we wanted to make easier for the hospitals and retail sector to, we will give them the opportunity to have the information anonymously. And we can, as a Zullig Pharma, to take that information. And after that, we will make that process automated, and we will reduce time. My mother is actually an anesthesiologist in hospital, and they have a lot of problems with the pharmacist, especially because they're working in the third party, not mainly with the manufacturers, as this case is presented. And they would be extremely thankful if they can make that process extremely seamless and do not have to worry about where the drugs, where the medication needed for the patients. That's the main focus where we wanted to make the reduction waste, but also to focus on the whole spectrum of the supply chain to make it more seamless and more efficient, if I answer your question.
Sure, thanks.
Thank you.
Maybe a couple of questions from my side. You touched very briefly on Pharma Ledger. What was your thinking there around? You didn't really go into any detail around it. I think it was very early in the presentation.
Yeah, I can take on that. We only mentioned that in Europe they made a pharma ledger, but as we already know, and in the case study is mentioned, that in Europe it is very different than in Asia to make a decision, especially when it comes to blockchain technologies and something that is new, because everyone needs to say yes to that, and it's very hard for them to do such thing if it's not proved that it works or that everyone's needs are satisfied. So we think that that's a good step for something in the future, but we don't think that something will be changed like soon.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you could also talk me through the reduction in cost by 80%. How is that derived?
Yeah, I can take on that theme. So basically, we have. Let me just a second to switch to the slide number 3 of backup. So basically, we have analyzed this pie chart here represents all of the expenses that one hospital, typical hospital, worldwide. This is the worldwide data that we were able to gather that this hospital already has. If we take a closer look, administration and general overhead costs are around 28%, 21 to 28%. Here it's shown that it's 28%. So basically, we lowered those administration and general overhead costs that highlight the non-labor costs, the non-staffing costs by 80%, those part of the costs. But if we look at it cumulatively, we see that this portion of the pie takes the most of the costs. So that's why, and those are the data from the benchmarks and different reports of the Accenture, Deloitte, Big Four, and the other industry leaders.
But maybe kind of talk me through then what by a hospital implementing this, what would be the steps where it reduces by 80%? What are we taking out?
So basically, hospitals, if we go through the implementation, what's in it for hospitals is that basically a hospital implements the blockchain supply chain and goes to the Zullig Pharma's infrastructure, they would mainly benefit. And the way that we lower the administration cost is basically by not having to manually order all of the medicine and the drugs, and all of those data will be provided within the blockchain and will be provided to the hospitals. It would be like, hey, Dr. Josh, do you want to we've seen as the previous years, we have seen that in January, for example, there's an outburst in the flu. Do you want to order extra antibiotics, as extra ibuprofen? And he would simply, it's all connected within the infrastructure of the hospital, which every hospital has its own infrastructure, and he would simply click yes, no, and it could be independent. There wouldn't be the whole administration team that would be doing only the procurement part for the hospital.
Good, got it. And then the final one from me, maybe you could just walk me through the revenue model. I just wanted to understand how the numbers are made up. So where's the revenue coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we take a closer look, we have seen that the average revenue per customer or the user or the ARPU in the pharmacy industry in Asia is 15.15 US dollars. Apologies. So if we take that model and apply the growth, which it will be inevitable, the growth of the average revenue per user, which will be inevitable if we implement the blockchain through to the hospitals. We would generate, we would have the revenue from the margins increase, and that would be the added revenue for the model, and those revenue for the until the 2027 could make up to totaling about let's say around 18% of the total revenue of the Zullig Pharma, which is 12 billion. Unfortunately, this is the data that we have been there's no financial statements that we have been provided with, but this is the benchmark data from the similar like companies.
Thank you. Thanks. No more questions on my side.
Thank you.
Any further questions from our judges? We still have 4 minutes. Christy, any questions from you? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the financial implication as well. Would you mind to go back to the previous slide with some of the bar charts that you have indicated the assumptions? Because when I look at that, does it mean like the revenue will be like started in next year? Basically, you will have like the $100 million.
I apologize. I couldn't hear you very well. Could you please repeat the?
Yeah, I think to the previous 2 slides, I think. If you can go back.
You this one.
Yes,
yeah?
this one. Yes, this one.
Okay.
So
okay.
means, in terms of the revenue breakdown, like you will foresee to enjoy the revenue starting year 1, which is next year, like with $100 million US. Is that like how you indicate here? Because I try to read this. Yeah. Yes. Right. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So basically, if we I need to go back to the expansion plan for the next years to really showcase you the outcome from the both expansion and the how it translates to revenue. So basically, by the year 2024 and the end of year 2024, we would have only Hong Kong and Malaysia and Philippines in the development phases. Those are the countries, and we would have the 1,000 hospitals and 8K retailers and clinics, and those are only the numbers that are highly undervalued or pessimistic, and this would translate to according to our calculations, timing the average visits that a person spends in average revenue per user in hospitals times the amount that average hospital has visitors, we would generate around $100 million in the 20 by the end of 2024, and that would slightly be increased. Of course, the revenue would expand as the expansion plan goes further.
Right. So how are you going to motivate them like to participate into this project? Because I can see like you have worked out like some of the numbers already, but like it seems like quite an aggressive plan to 1,000 of hospitals. So how are you going to expand to that scale?
Luca, may I? Or
Yeah,
you
of
just,
course, of course.
So we want to tackle all of these hospitals by targeting them with the possibility for those hospitals to have reduction costs by having reduction of waste, by tackling every ESG moment, and in that way tackle all of the stakeholders to participate in our strategy. Luca, do you have something to add on?
Yeah, I could just showcase you the real value. If we take, for an example, Naja's mother is a doctor. All right. So basically, if doctors are, don't get me wrong, we have been gone through the unfortunately through the pandemic that has hit the entire world, and the doctors have been working nonstop. And if someone approaches the doctors and the staff of the hospital and says, you don't have to deal with the non-labor stuff that doesn't impact your work at all, you only have to press one button for that stuff to appear for all the medicines, etc., and you can focus only on your patients. That would be the tremendous amount of adoption amongst the hospitals and doctors, and would also
thank you Liko. Thank you for your answer. Thank you, judges.